Hello there, my lovely Wibbly Wampas. This is John in the Edit Bay with some fantastic news for just you. Our latest show had too much content, so we decided to cut a chunk out and give it to you on the down low. Anyways, enjoy this 30 minutes of more Han Solo talk that I'm sure you've heard a billion times. Catch you on the flip side.
Last week we went over Solo and some of the concerns and some of the potential the film has. And in that time we've been watching some of the trailers that came out, specifically the second full-length one. Since we kind of decided last time that we're all pretty excited for the movie itself to come out. And we have some opinions on that trailer that I think we'd like to share with everybody.
That sounds good to me.
All right. Do you want to start us off on this one? Because you have some very extensive notes, I believe.
Yeah, Ian and I went about this in completely different ways, where I think he kind of just went over the things he saw. I kind of went second by second of each scene. So let me see if I can tone that down just a little bit and not make it nearly as monotonous as it could be.
John is a very detailed individual.
Sometimes. Only sometimes.
I think we'll hear a little bit more about that in our later segment when we go over costuming.
True.
Yeah. But for now, Solo trailer breakdown. What do you got for me?
Alright, so most of my notes are from the second trailer that was released about, was it a week ago?
Was it a week ago? It feels like a month ago.
Right? It's not coming soon enough. May 25th is, for some reason, getting further and further away.
That's how it works.
We get to it.
That's how it works.
But one of the things I noticed when the trailer opens is it's a shot of an urban landscape. Could this be Corellia?
I hope so.
That would be cool. We've never seen anything in canon on Corellia. I don't think they ever went there in the Clone Wars.
Yeah, I don't believe so either.
But one of the cool shots in that is there's a Star Destroyer being constructed in atmosphere.
Yeah, that was kind of interesting because we don't, other than the Death Star construction, we don't see a lot of the Imperial infrastructure being built up in the other movies. It's just kind of already there. So it would be kind of cool to see a time period where we're shifting away from the Old Republic Clone Wars technology and into the major military machine that is the Empire, and seeing kind of some of that manufacturing and how it's affecting the common citizen. It might be pretty interesting to see. I think it would tie in well with the whole underground hitting the streets type of story that it looks like we're going to get in Solo.
I think you hit it a little bit harder than I did. I was mostly interested in why they chose to build a spaceship in atmosphere rather than in a space dock in space, where I'm assuming it's infinitely cheaper to move things around, move supplies around, just because you don't have to use repulsor coils or some sort of engine to keep the dry dock in the air.
That's a fair assessment. I didn't say it was a effective industrial complex.
And if this does happen to be a shipyard on Corellia, I got way too into this part and looked up who was the actual manufacturer of the Imperial Star Destroyers.
This is in the old EU or new?
Yeah, I just went on Wikipedia and looked up what corporations there were out there, because I know Sinar Fleet Systems does the TIEs, so I wasn't sure who did the capital ships. Though I did note in Wikipedia that the Corellian Engineering Corps, or I think Corporation, is known for building Imperial capital ships, and they're renowned for being the faster variants of those ships.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it could be Corellia. This could be the Corellian Engineering Corporation. That's all hearsay. And everything I took is from the Legends.
Right.
So, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I like it when they they've been doing that with the new movies and a little bit in Rogue One and everything, where they're taking these concepts, and the TV shows too, they're taking concepts from the old canon and bringing them back. And I really enjoy when they do that, because you get to see familiar stuff that you really enjoy, but in new ways.
Exactly. The next shot in the trailer, this is again the second full-length release trailer.
Yep.
Is a shot of that beach where we first see what's her name, Enfy's nest.
Enfy's nest.
Enfy's
Is that
nest.
a beach?
Well,
I
I
didn't notice the ocean. It kind of looked deserty to me.
Well, I'll Google it up again, but there on the far right of the screen was a large tower, and that screamed to me that had to be a ship, which in one of the TV spots later is seen flying around. So I was so stoked I nailed that.
Yeah, you were pretty excited about that when we watched the second spot. You're just like, I knew it.
We then have a shot of actress Thandie Newton's character. Do you have what her character's name is?
Val is her name.
Val? Okay.
We haven't seen a lot of her.
Not yet. So maybe she's a mystery character. Hopefully she has a bigger part in it than what we've seen.
I think so, because she seems to be pretty chummy with Tobias.
Right. Maybe part of his existing crew.
Yeah.
So I like the half a second shot of her readying her weapon solely because the optic she had on the weapon is something that I actually own for my airsoft guns.
Oh.
So that made me trigger like, oh, now I need to find out what the rest of the prop is made out of, or if it's based on anything to try to make this. That's
because you don't have enough blasters.
Yeah, I don't have. Yeah, exactly.
There's like 7 E11s somewhere?
I have
in partial states of creation.
Yeah, I think I have about 6 E11s, which is actually something we'll go over later tonight.
Absolutely.
The next part we get is a shot of what appears to be the train heist in progress. This was cool because it has the new range troopers duking it out with presumably Solo and Chewie on top of the train, and on the side of the train. It looks like their giant boots have some sort of magnetic clamping, or maybe some other fancy Star Wars way of being able to support a trooper while horizontal to the or perpendicular to the ground on the side of the trains.
Whenever I played, I used to play the Old Republic game extensively, and I was in a role-playing guild, and I played a trooper, and whenever he needed to attach himself to something or be on the outside of a ship or something, I'd always claim, yeah, I've got mag boots. And I wasn't ever 100% sure if that was a Star Wars thing, but now it seems like it is, or there's an option for it, something similar. So retroactively, I was right.
That's cool, because I had purchased the Hasbro Black Series 6-inch Range Trooper.
It's a cool-looking
was
model.
Marveling at how big his feet were because of his boots, and how easy it made him stand, unlike all of the other figures.
Yeah, there is definitely a standing problem with those 6 inches.
Now, the next shot, I really enjoyed. I feel like I'm going to keep saying that. But
it's a good trailer. You
right?
can enjoy things.
But as mentioned several times on this podcast, maybe once or twice, I'm a big Imperial fanboy.
Just a little one.
So seeing a Star Destroyer being built is pretty cool. Seeing new range troopers, it's pretty cool. The next shot had an ATST appearing to have been dropped from somewhere, and in the middle of a battle with what appeared to be Imperial Army troopers, which I don't think have been canon for an incredibly long time. I think they showed up in the original Battlefront 2. I cannot remember, but...
No, they weren't in the original Battlefront 2.
Okay. I didn't play it, so I'm a bad gamer. But...
We'll fix that for a different podcast.
Exactly. So what these troopers have been identified as is mud troopers.
Yep.
And they look basically like General Veers, but in his AT-AT commander outfit, except actually on the ground doing combat with. They have big goggles and respirators on, and I'm super excited about that because I can build that costume pretty quickly, and I've always been a fan of the Imperial Army troops. I like the idea that these stormtroopers are supposed to be the elite of the military, and they support the backbone of a human or lightly armored infantry army.
And they've moved away from that concept.
Yes.
And this might be their way of kind of bringing it back in. Like, one of the things that I was kind of quizzical about in Rogue One was when, like, stormtroopers were acting as prison security as well as all the other things that stormtroopers do. I thought that kind of a role would have been really good for these types of troopers. So this might be an attempt to bring that back, make the stormtroopers more of the elites again. Or these could just be a different class of stormtrooper.
Yes. And my thought, and I think we discussed this off the podcast, that they could be a transitional kind of army, like a planetary militia versus a galactic standard for Imperial forces. Because we do know that because of this, the action figures coming out, there is a stormtrooper called the Mimban Stormtrooper who appears to be super muddy, just kind of like the Mud Troopers. So I have a feeling that we're going to see them fighting side by side and maybe phasing out these lightly armored infantry into the white armor that we all know and fear and respect.
Mostly just fear and shoot at.
The rest of my notes on the second trailer are more of just... they're a lot smaller, not much that we need to go into. We see Woody Harrelson's character, Tobias Beckett, and it looks like he has the same kind of pistol that Cassian Andor had, the A280 CFE, which I cannot remember what the CFE stands for.
Incredibly impressed that you know that off the top of your head.
Well, I've built a couple, so I know what they are.
Well, still.
Though, on a side note, the pop figure that has Tobias Beckett in a Mud Trooper uniform, he's actually carrying a DL-44 like Han Solo's, but it has an extended barrel and a wooden buttstock, which is something that the C96 Mauser that the DL-44 was based on was able to do in World War I and early World War II.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of cool. What else do we got? Oh, there's another Wookiee. Who could it be?
Yeah,
we've already talked about this.
We already talked
I'm
about
hoping
that
it's Lumpy.
last time.
It's probably Mala, or it's probably just, maybe the other Wookiee general that was hanging out with Chewbacca when he helped the traitorous Yoda escape.
That Wookiee had very distinctive fur. I don't think it was that particular one.
We get a shot of the tentacle monster in space again, which I think Ian and I have both agreed is probably part of the Kessel Run.
Yeah, it seems like it'll be a bit different than the EU explanation of the Kessel Run, where it's very close to black holes.
Yeah, they have to fly through the Maw, which is a system of black holes. I have a feeling that they decided to do a tentacle monster thing to make it more dangerous, and because black holes, if they want to do them realistically, it really wouldn't make sense on the small screen.
They want to stop. They want to stop the decrying of needing hard science in the space
space fantasy
about space wizards and tentacle monsters in space and whales that can destroy ships.
Exactly. Good old Purgle. Bring him back. Hashtag bring back the Purgle.
Hashtag bring back the Purgle. Hey, you know what? All we see is tentacles. Like, that could be just a really giant Purgle.
That's what I'm hoping. I'm truly hoping that.
All right,
and I hope
down.
I'm disappointed too. So, because if it's not that, then whatever. But
yeah, it's fine.
I won't be upset.
The calamari run. Let's do it.
Yes, delicious. And we got Han doing the classic, I've got a bad feeling, but he's got a good feeling. Now, we did an episode on fan service, and every movie has had a I've got a bad feeling about this moment.
Or several.
I like how they did this. They took a concept that we all know, and they kind of flipped it around, but they kept it there. Which I appreciate the Kasdans, the screenwriters, keeping in this movie. And keeping it in the franchise.
I think that's something that maybe not every fan knows, but Lawrence Kasdan has written Solo for the majority of Solo's existence. So that would be he wrote for Empire Strikes Back, he wrote for Return of the Jedi, and he wrote for The Force Awakens. So he knows this character very well, and he worked with George Lucas on the character. So anybody who has concerns that people are not going to stay true to the character of Han Solo, which we discussed last time, is a concern, I think that they can rest a little bit easier knowing that someone who is responsible for the Han that we know, or at least partially responsible for the Han that we know, is in charge of writing that character for this project.
Yes, definitely. Another thing I'm surprised that they included in the trailer was a mention of Chewbacca's actual age. I thought that they would save that sort of thing for, even if they ever said it, that they wouldn't put it in a trailer. His age, of course, being 190-ish, I believe they said.
Yeah, I believe he's supposed to be 200 in A New Hope, so the math checks out.
Okay.
One thing that was kind of interesting about that scene, and we learned this from the Star Wars show, available on YouTube and at StarWars.com, I believe, is that Lawrence Kasdan and John Kasdan, his son, both of whom wrote the film, they made a point to write out all of Chewbacca's lines so that Alden Ehrenreich, did I do it right?
Alden Ehrenreich.
Alden Ehrenreich. I think I got it right, yeah. But they wrote out all of Chewbacca's lines so that Alden Ehrenreich could...
So close.
I know. Could understand what Chewbacca was saying. So even though the audience doesn't, him as an actor can respond kind of more appropriately to the actions. Whereas I think in other films, they were just written out as feelings or moans. Mm-hmm. So I found that to be a really interesting little tidbit of information, and I'd like to get my hands on the script to actually see that afterwards.
I think it's really cool that they wrote it out like that. It's gonna make the interactions between the characters a lot more interesting. We know that Han Solo can speak
Shiriwook.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I will never be able to pronounce that. If it's okay that you can never pronounce Alden Ehrenreich.
I got it once.
So, but now we'll actually get to see, or at least hear, a conversation that doesn't feel like it was just a response to a noise, but a response to actual words and actual feelings that are conveyed with those words. And I think that will do a lot to help build Chewbacca's character even more, to not just being the alien, non-understandable sidekick of everyone's hero.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's also going to help the new Chewbacca actor, obviously, Peter
Dinklage.
No.
Mayhew. Mayhew.
Peter Mayhew is getting up there in years, and he's having some movement problems now. So the new actor Joonas Suotamo, which thank you Solo for casting people whose names I can't pronounce properly. I think it'll help him get into Chewbacca's character a little bit more, get inside the head.
Oh, absolutely.
So, and I think we'll get a better performance out of him as Chewbacca because of that. And I wonder, I'd be curious to know if they wrote out Chewbacca's lines for The Last Jedi as well, because wasn't Joonas Suotamo also Chewie in that movie?
Yes, I believe his name is a Y sounding for the J.
Oh, so Eunice.
Yes.
All right, great. Another person I can't pronounce. One day we're gonna meet these people and shake hands with them, and then they're just gonna lean in real close and be like, "We know you don't know how to pronounce it," and then I'll be completely embarrassed and honored that they listen to this podcast.
It's okay, Ian.
Oh, ow. Yes. Okay, June.
Yoon. It's a Y sounding J.
Oh, another Y sounding J. I'm bad at this game.
So that pretty much wrapped it up for the trailer. For the second trailer, we've gone a little bit longer on this, I think, than we meant to go.
Maybe.
But I know that you had a couple other observations from a couple of the other spots.
Yeah, well, one thing I really enjoyed as a whole from all the trailers we've seen is that they haven't spoiled the bad guys. We have enough information to know, okay, Emphas Nest is the strange armored person, and she's a bad guy. We get enough information to know that there's this other gangster crime lord, and
what's his name? We had this issue earlier, and I kept calling him Quinlan Voss.
You kept calling him Quinlan Voss because his last name is also Voss, but I believe his name is Dryden Voss.
Okay, yeah,
played by Paul Bettany. And so we know he exists. We can see that he's got some dangerous skills. We see that Emphas Nest looks intimidating and imposing, and we see a little bit of action from her. But we don't get any dialogue from those characters, and I think that's something that we see in trailers these days is we get a little bit too much information.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to see that they're keeping some things back. That makes me very, very excited about learning about these characters. And then the other note, real quick, I wanted to go over was the kind of high life scenes where Han is meeting up with Kira, and it kind of looks like maybe a club or a casino type. It would be interesting to see how this scene feels versus kind of the crime boss palace that Jabba has, where it's kind of like he's a big powerful person, but he's also, it's kind of backwater.
Surrounded himself with low lifes.
Right. It's kind of backwater and crummy. And then also comparing it to the Canto Bight sequence, which is kind of like the opposite end of that scale, where it's like overly indulgent and fancy and all that. So I'm interested to see how that plays out.
This could be a little intro into where Lando gets his style.
Oh yeah.
I feel like Cloud City is kind of, it's not quite Canto Bight, but it's definitely not Jabba's palace or even Maz's castle.
Right.
Maybe closer to Coruscant. And that's what I kind of got the vibe from those high society scenes we've seen. Is kind of the upper echelons of Coruscantian life that we used to that we'd see in the Clone Wars or in Attack of the Clones. Revenge? Yeah, Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, and it's one of my favorite things about Lando is Donald Glover, who's playing him in the film, kind of came out and said that Lando might not know exactly what he's doing, but he's dressing like he knows what he's doing. Like he you gotta dress for the job you want, not the job you have, sort of thing. And he's dressing like the most awesome dude in the galaxy with all that swag.
Just for the job you want.
Yeah. So if anything else, I'm actually really most excited in learning more about Lando and seeing Donald Glover play Lando. I think I'm more into that than Han Solo. And I'm sure Han Solo is going to be great, and so is Chewbacca. But I think of the three characters we know, I'm stoked to see Donald Glover as Lando the most.
And just one side note as we wrap this up. I've come up just now with a fantastic new Hoth Topics segment.
Oh, boy.
And I'm calling it, Will This Piss Off Ian?
I'm pretty sure we started this segment in an earlier episode.
Oh, this is going to be official, though. This is going to be a theme that I will put in right now.
This is a test of the emergency Ian system.
Ian has strong opinions.
No. I'm the kind of person who will say a lot and then go home and yell things. I thought we were going to get through one episode without you mentioning Jedi treason. I'm gonna yell things. I don't know what I expected. I can't believe he made a theme. He says he's gonna make a theme. I haven't heard it yet. I just can't believe he's doing it.
It's the power of being the show's editor.
Yeah, great, fantastic. All right, so what are you trying to piss me off with?
So, in Star Wars, in all Star Wars media,
it's
games,
a thing I like.
Or video games, the pen and paper games that we enjoy, RPGs, and the shows, all of Star Wars, there seems to be a divide between the good guys and the bad guys. I mean, that's obvious.
Yeah, it is a traditional story like that.
For whatever reason, in Star Wars, you have two criminals that are on two groups of people that you would commonly consider criminals on both sides. Or maybe not even criminals, I'll say. On the Imperial side, the dark side, we always have the bounty hunters. You see where I'm going with this already?
I know where you're going with this.
I think you know. On the rebel side, or the light side, we have smugglers. Now, we mentioned in the last episode how Han isn't a good guy. He's a drug smuggler. We don't know what else he's smuggled.
We know drugs, for one.
Exactly. So what we have in this movie is a smuggler and a pirate. At least that's what we see. At the beginning, it looks like he's making a good decision to serve the Empire, to help the galaxy.
We don't know that.
But at some point, he's obviously recruited into some sort of life of crime. And what we're getting in this film is a rebel hero, a hero to generations, who will actively be doing crime, like actual crime. Where in the other movies he's fighting the Empire, who are considered the bad guys by some treasonous people. But in this movie, they're not. I wouldn't say that they seem to be the bad guys, but more of
they're the law enforcement.
Yes, they're the status quo. They're the authority figures, but not necessarily the evil ones.
Yeah.
So, Ian, how does it feel to know that we will be seeing a movie where we have these what will be later rebel criminals, but actually being criminals?
Okay, first of all, Han Solo was a criminal. We knew this. He was doing criminal things at the beginning of A New Hope. He was a criminal then, but then he changed his ways. By the time he becomes a rebel general, I guess technically being a rebel general makes him a criminal in the eyes of the Empire. But that entirely depends on your thinking that the Empire is a legitimate government, which
they are.
I guess it is, because the Republic Senate actually voted it into. But
and thank you for playing the first installment of Will This Piss Off Ian?
Shut up.
Well, my wily wormos, I hope you enjoyed that 30 minutes of solo trailer discussion. I also hope you enjoyed our new segment, Will This Piss Off Ian? It probably will. I had far too much fun making that theme song today. If you have any questions, comments, or even compliments, you can send us an email at hothpod@gmail.com. You can also follow our Twitter handle, which is, of course, at HothPod. There you can find the latest updates on releases of Hoth Topics podcast, assuming that Ian is doing his job of being in charge of the social media accounts. And if you happen to find yourself bored, sitting at home, watching the 5th season of Star Trek The Next Generation, like I am currently, you can always go over to HothTopicsPodcast.com, where we sometimes post Star Wars news and op-ed pieces that probably should have been saved for discussion on the show. Well, friends, it looks like Lieutenant Commander Data, second officer of the USS Enterprise, NCC-1701D, has got himself in another time travel conundrum. So you know what that means. From all of us here at Hoth Topics, this is John reminding you that when the deck officer tells you the temperature is dropping too rapidly, to listen to him, because your tauntaun may freeze to death before the first marker.